Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Shattered Realities. This is your host, Jay Warner. And no, I don't wear the same clothes every day. I'm actually recording a couple of videos today because, I'm motivated. And one thing that I'm motivated about is I see good changes and bad changes happening here in America. And I try to remain as bipartisan as possible. And I also try to remain. The future's not as bleak as some people make it out to be. Both the right and the left wing have some very bleak views on what they think are going to happen. And like I said, I'm not non-patriotic. I am, in my heart, I believe in America. I believe in the dreams that my ancestors believed in when they came here to this country and worked hard and did the things that they had to do. I am a third generation German. Oh, my bloodline consists of third generation German, fourth and fifth generation Irish immigrants, third generation Swede. There's also a little bit of Dutch in there. I'm not too sure where that comes in, and also Native American on both sides. Creek Cherokee on one side, and I believe River Cherokee or another thing from the Cherokee Nation. Probably a little bit more than Elizabeth Warren's 164th, but hey, it is what it is. So, and everybody in my family was an immigrant at one point. Even the Native Americans. You say that the Native Americans lived here, but they actually came over on a land bridge from Mongolia through Siberia and across through Alaska. So everybody who's living here genetically in the United States is an immigrant. So we are a land of immigrants. We are a mixing pot of different cultures and different ideas. And we are, by far, in my opinion anyway, the greatest nation in the world because of these differences and these different ideas and when we can come together. And that seems to be a problem now. But like I said, I'm not going into a negative direction. I'm not taking a stab at the right wing or the left wing here. I just want to state, and these are my opinions, not the opinions of everybody, but 10 things that I believe would make America an even greater country than it already is. America is already great. We don't need to make America great, but there's 10 things that we could do that would make this country just the shining beacon on the hill that it was once, or at least once believed to be. Okay, and I'll jump right in here. I'm going to try to keep this video a little short because I'm recording a couple today. But number 10. Now, the media is an uncontrollable monster in this country. And whether this message gets out to Donald Trump or president or a future president or future generations or whoever, there are things that you could do to make things great. And it's not going to be easy to get everything back on track. I understand it's a process, but these are things that I believe there are. But the media is an absolute monster who seems to, whether from the right wing or the left wing, keep America polarized and actually destroy the country as a whole. And one thing that I believe that a sitting president or leader of the United States needs to do would be to make the media accountable. Now, everybody screams out fake news, fake news, fake news. But there is a point to that. Now, if the media spreads gossip or slander against anybody or anything that turns out to be 100% true, they should be held accountable. They should be held liable. That way, they'll have to actually do some research and look at things again instead of just jumping on a bandwagon. And that's what we have. We have a lot of bandwagoning. So I think that the media is a big part of the problem that we're having in the United States. So, number 10, make the media accountable. If they print something that is completely false, let them be liable to lawsuits. Let people come after them. If you do something that ruins people's jobs, people's livelihoods, people's reputations based on false assumptions, you should be held accountable. So, media accountability. Okay. Number 9. And this is one that's probably going to get me a lot of slack, but this is something that I've always truly believed. Okay. Tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, which is a very liberal place. My parents were both heavily involved in the Democratic Party. They marched in the civil rights movement, sort of, more hippie, environmentally type people. But I'm talking about they were liberals, but they were more liberals in a classic sense, as far as in the sense of constitutionalism, in the sense of equal rights, not modern feminism, but feminism, working class, which are almost sort of an invert now, to where these things seem to matter more to the right wing than they do to the left wing. The left wing is more on the whole socialism and social services, like throw money at the problem, and that's not always that great. And the right wing is always, pray away the gay, pray the situation away, make more laws, make more regulations, and that doesn't always work either. And it seems like anytime a politician comes into office, whether they have good ideas or bad ideas, they have to follow the party line. So here's my suggestion. I think that we should do away with the party system. I think when somebody runs for president, runs for senate, runs for governor, even local elections, run on your ideas, on your principles, the things that you believe in, instead of towing the party line. If you don't have to have the D or the R behind your name, and you don't have to have support from these constituents or these constituents, you're going to come off as more genuine. You're going to be a free person. You're going to be a free soul. And that's what we need. We need more free thinkers in government. We don't need party lines. So, end the political parties. No more Democrats, no more Republicans, no more Green Party, no more libertarians. Let people vote on their conscience. Let people think on their conscience, on what they want to be, instead of playing, the NFL Super Bowl of Republican, Democrat. Let people be what they want to be, and the party systems. Okay. Now, number 8. And this is something that's probably going to get me a lot of slack, but like I said, I come from a family of immigrants. But my family came over here and they worked. They came over here legally, well, with the exception of the Irish, who came over here in chains. Okay, I did have somebody post a question to me, and this actually literally shut them up, but they asked me, they mentioned something about immigration, and I said, well, they should just come over here legally. Legal only immigrate. Well, you can only be one of 3 things, which is either you came over as a slave, your family came over as slaves, or immigrants, or I can't even remember what the third one was, but I was like, well, some of my family did come over here as slaves. It was called, the Irish, who were convicted of crimes. They were brought over here in chains, literally, and made to work in fields that were, and if any of you are Irish, you know very well that we don't do very well in the sun, so it was treacherous. They were slaves. Work servitude is still servitude. It's still slavery, whatever you want to call it. And they were brought over here as slaves, and other people came over here as immigrants. Or natives. That was the third part. And I was like, yes, I have Native American blood, so my family were natives. I have slaves, and I have immigrants. So I have all three. So what was your point? That just kind of ended that debate right there. But I believe now we have 380 million people in this country. We have trouble taking care of our veterans. We have trouble taking care of our older folks. We have trouble taking care of people who have true disabilities. You know, money doesn't grow on trees. You can't tax everybody 100% of their income, even the richest folks. If you tax the richest 1% in this country 100% of their income, it still would not even touch the debt. Okay? So we have a serious problem with debt in this country. And when we have millions upon millions of immigrants pouring into this country, it's going to just create more debt. You cannot have an open border society and a welfare socialist system. You cannot have both. Look at what happened with Venezuela. You cannot have both. It does not work. And anybody who studies history will know this. So, we're all immigrants. People should have a chance to come over to this country, but have a place to live when you come here. Learn the language and have a job lined up. So, work-only immigration. So we definitely need to work on our immigration policies. And this is one thing that I do agree with our president on. You cannot just open the borders. You cannot just open the floodgates and let everybody in. And I'm sorry. I know there's people suffering. There's people that are having problems in their own countries. But you know what? There are other countries that are closer to them. For instance, Chile is, the Chilean government is a very capitalist system. It's growing, their economy's growing, so they don't have the welfare systems in place, but they do have jobs. They're a growing nation, they're a growing economy in the world. So why couldn't, and the same thing to a certain extent with Brazil, why can't the people from Honduras and Guatemala and these other countries go over to Chile or go over there? That would be a lot closer. It would be people who speak your language. Well, not Brazil, I'm sorry. I know they speak Portuguese, but still, it would be closer to your culture than to come to the United States and to the culture. Okay, I'm not saying that everybody who's coming here has an ingenuous need to suck up our welfare and our resources. That's not what I'm saying, but there is only so much available with these resources. And I'm sorry, but we need to take care of the people who went out and fought in our wars and who spent money their entire lives on this economy, and the people who are here. They need our help more than the people who are coming in. Okay? So, work only immigration. That means that people who come into our country have a job. Make sure that you have work. And if that's the case, welcome. I don't care where you're from or who you're from. If you're a hard-working person, welcome to the United States. Come and make your dream true. But if you're coming over here just to suck up resources, it's not going to work. It's not. You're going to absolutely collapse our country. And you open up the floodgates and let everybody come here and give them free resources, then you destroy our economy, and then we become just another third world nation. And I don't want to see that ever happen. Not within my lifetime, not within my kids or my grandchildren's lifetimes. I don't want to see that happen. Okay, so work only immigration. We need to tighten those borders. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm not saying we need to build a wall. I'm not saying we need to let nobody in whatsoever, but work only immigration. Okay. Now, here's something that in my lifetime I've had many relatives and friends who have had drug issues. And not all those drug issues are heroin addicts shooting up heroin or crackheads smoking crack or people snorting meth. A lot of it is the pharmaceutical industry. The pharmaceutical industry seems to be unregulated. They can put out things like Xanax, and you can see every one of these mass shooting incidents happen with somebody who are on antidepressants or some kind of thing that control the neurological chemistry of your brain or of your glandular system. And these things I don't believe are very safe, but yet there's no regulations. And why is it that the FDA, who doesn't clamp down on it, why is Oxycontin still allowed? I mean, we had Xanax, we had Percocet, we have strong painkillers, we didn't need Oxycontin, but yet this highly addictive substance is out there, and millions of people are getting addicted to it. So this is my number 7. I believe that drug companies need to be, especially the pharmaceutical companies, they need to be held accountable. If they put a highly dangerous or highly addictive drug out there and it becomes a problem and collects resources, they need to pay. They need to be held accountable. They need to also, there needs to be restrictions. Nobody should have to pay $100+ for an EpiPen to save their lives. Accountability. Now the FDA is supposed to have that accountability, but what do you see within the FDA? Almost to a point. You can research this subject. This isn't something I'm making up. This isn't a conspiracy theory. The people in the FDA always leave the FDA and get a job with pharmaceutical companies. Why do you think that is? That is because they take kickbacks. This is my opinion. This isn't a fact, but of course, if Pfizer offers you a $300,000 a year job once you retire from the FDA, of course you're going to approve these Pfizer drugs to go through. So yeah, pharmaceutical accountability. We live in a nation of epidemic proportions of users, of drug abusers, of people who are addicts. And the pharmaceuticals, when those aren't available, people turn to street drugs. And this is a problem that needs to be addressed, and I don't hear talked about enough. Okay, I myself have fought with addiction and battled it, and maybe one of these days I'll actually do a video and explain more about my journey through addiction. But pharmaceutical accountability. If we're ever going to make this nation great again, we're going to have to get cleaned up. And we're going to have to hold some of these legal drug dealers accountable. So, media accountability. Number 6. Large political donations. I believe that we need to stop this. We need to outlaw this. Nobody should ever donate more than $100 or $200 to a politician. That means that the big companies who want their laws passed can sit there and just donate more and more and more, so that the political candidates feel beholden to these people and want to pass their laws. They have to pay those people back in order for these endorsements from these companies or from these unions or from these political parties or NGOs or different organizations. So I think those large donations need to stop. Let the people decide who they want. Let the people decide who they want to pay. I don't think that corporate donations should be a thing whatsoever. So, and corporate donations. Number 5, and this is a very important one, and this is something that I talk about a lot on my page, but we have to be able to return to free speech in this country. We have to be able to say what we want, okay? Like I said before, there's a lot of people who talk nonstop about how much greater the world would be if white people ceased to exist, if all white people died, and about white male patriarchy and cis male dominance, and just, which, you know, I'm not going to get into the subject much, but this is horse shit. But we also have people who talk about other things negative from other sides. But you know what? Let them speak. Let them say what they want. Also, hate speech laws are ridiculous. Hate speech laws are just your way, or the government's way of regulating and trying to make people think the way you are. Yes, there's going to be assholes. There's going to be racists. There's going to be bad fucking people. But you can't regulate what people say and what people think. What you can do is, if you decide that you don't like the things that I'm saying, you can turn this channel off. You can boycott it. You can speak out against it. But to actually have people thrown in jail, to have their livelihoods and their jobs ruined because they have thoughts that you don't like, that's absolutely ridiculous. If we're going to make America great again, America was great because of the exchange of ideas, because of the freedom of speech. You cannot destroy the freedom of speech. And fucking hate. I'm not talking about hate crime laws. If you go out and you shoot a man because he's gay or because he's black or because he dresses up like a woman or for any other reason, you're a fucking asshole and you need to go to prison. So I'm not saying that we need to end hate laws, but hate speech laws are ridiculous. That is just regulating what people say. If I don't like what people say and they're an asshole, I turn it off. I don't watch it. I don't give them attention. I'm not going to feed them with negativity. Like I said in my last video, I'm not going to go that route. Just ignore them. You don't like what Professor Griff says about white people being reptilian demons, don't listen to Professor Griff. That's fine. That doesn't mean he doesn't have the right. If I don't agree with Louis Farrakhan, who's one of the most anti-Semitic frickin' people on the planet, who talks about the destruction of Israel constantly, but do I say he doesn't have a right to speak? He has a right to speak. And when you go that route, you got to look at some of these people who are on the alt-right, who are white nationalists, and that they have a right to say what they want to say too. Everybody has a right to say. Everybody has a right to speak. It's freedom. And the constant censorship that's going on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, it's ridiculous. This needs to stop. Bring back free speech. Return to free thought and free ideas. Once again, stop these regulations on people's speech. You're not going to change anything. What you are going to do is you're going to create more and more underground radicals. When you tell people to shut up and they can't say what they think, you're not going to change their minds. You're going to make them more radical. You're going to make crazy assholes like this son of a bitch who walked into the temple and shot a bunch of people in Pittsburgh. You're creating more people like that by telling people that they can't think this, they can't say this, they can't do this. Okay? If people commit a crime in the meaning of hate, then by all means prosecute them to the fullest. But words do not hurt. Thoughts and ideas do not injure you. They do not cost you money. They do not cause you physical pain. So, please, America, let's be great again. Let's return to free speech. Okay. I'm looking at my list, sorry. Here. Aha. Number 6. This is one thing that a lot of people, I think, don't realize this, and I didn't even become hip to this until I was, in my 30s when I learned about it, and there's things and people in Washington called lobbyists. What lobbyists are people who represent multinational corporations who take politicians out for dinners, who take them to retreats, who donate to their political parties. What it is it's legal bribery, and it's bullshit. If we're going to make this country great again, we need to end lobbyists. Nobody needs to be bribed. If your company has good ideas, that's great. If your company has bad ideas, you need to be held accountable. You don't need to be able to come and pry a politician with hookers and cocaine and dinners at the Olive Garden or some fancy restaurant in order to get your point across. So, if we're going to make America great again, we got to get the bribers, the legal bribery out of the political system. This needs to be done away with. I am completely against lobbyists and lobbying. Completely. Get it done. Now, this is number 7, and this is another one that a lot of people are going to get upset about. And I've stated many times before, I don't drink alcohol. I don't use drugs, legal, pharmaceutical, illegal, none of the above. But there is something to be said for marijuana. Okay, if alcohol is a legal drug, which causes more deaths, disease, and problems than all the other pharmaceutical and illegal drugs put together, and it's legal. Same thing with cigarettes. Why is there such a prohibition on marijuana? Now, Canada recently had a forum on marijuana where they legalized it, and in their first month, they made $147 million in taxes. Now, granted, that might be a drop in the bucket, but that would help. We can do things with that kind of money. And no, I want to see it regulated just like alcohol. I don't want my 14 or 16-year-old daughter to go to the grocery store and buy some fucking jazz cabbage and get tore up. That's not what I want to see happen. I don't want to see kids doing it, just like I don't want to see kids drinking alcohol. I don't want to see see it get abused. And yes, it can be a gateway drug, but so can alcohol. So I mean, that's personal accountability. That's something, people have to learn personal accountability, and that goes for your addictions too. I'm not preaching to anybody. I don't smoke marijuana, but it has been proven to have some beneficial effects with certain people, like people with glaucoma, people who are suffering from that, people who have appetite deficiencies because of certain diseases or certain problems. So it can be beneficial too medically. And like the CBD oils, like when I had my tattoos healing, I used CBD oil. CBD is a chemical compound which is legal. It doesn't get you high, but what it does is it dulls out the pain, and it helps promote healing. So I have used CBD, not THC though, but legalize marijuana. What's the point? I mean, prisons are filled with people who have been charged with weed. The prison complex is one of the most profitable private enterprises in the country, and it's mostly filled with people who are charged with minor drug crimes. So let's legalize marijuana. And here's another thought too, and this is something that I've been thinking about. This is, I work graveyard shift at night a lot of times, so I have these crazy thoughts that go through my head. But okay, people are so worried about the environment, but yet they want to shop, they want to be consumers, they want to keep buying. And how does these things get taken across America? Is 90% of our commerce is done by trucks, these big guzzling diesel trucks. And like I said, I work at a truck stop at night, and some of these trucks come through there twice a day and fill their trucks up. They're burning 400 gallons of diesel fuel a day. Okay, now what are the impacts of all the drilling, all the fracking, all the things, these foundries that are pouring black smoke into the air to create this oil? What if we took some of this money and some of this revenue and tax revenue and built like rail systems, like in the middle of the freeways, like in the middle of I-90 and I-77, I-15, things like that. Build a railway system so that we could put some of these diesel trucks, instead of burning this fuel, have an electric rail system where they could just, go down the middle, take their trucks and invert the wheels like this, latch onto the rails and take the rail. Take an expressway. They wouldn't burn any fuel. You wouldn't have truck drivers falling asleep. You wouldn't have the wrecks from the icy roads, which anybody who's driven through Montana knows it's treacherous here in the winter. And especially with the truck drivers who are trying to go 80 miles an hour, which is our speed limit here, and you see them turned over and wrecked all the time. It's ridiculous. I'm not blaming the truck drivers, and I'm not blaming the truck industry, but if you could use these tax dollars to build some sort of system for them to where they're not burning all this diesel fuel, to where they're not falling asleep on the road, not running people off the road or going by somebody going 80 miles an hour, whitewashing them, knocking them off the roads. I mean, think about it. It would be money well spent. I mean, we have systems like this in other countries who have good, railroad systems. Rebuild the railroad systems, add them to the existing freeways and the median strips. Let's figure out a way to get less trucks, less diesel trucks on the road, and make the roads a lot safer. Car insurance will go down. The roads won't get as tore up. You won't have as many accidents. You won't have the deaths on the freeway. I could see this as a bonus plus. So, just something to think about. That's something you can do with those tax dollars. Rebuild our freaking infrastructure. I don't know if any of you have driven down freeways a lot, or some of these inner city roads, but it's like driving down a minefield. It's crazy. They're tore up. We have to start rebuilding our country. So there's an idea. There's a way for us to get great tax revenue. And like I said, people want to puff on the devil lettuce in their house. What difference is it going to make? Are they going to sit at home and eat a bunch of fucking Twinkies? I've never seen anybody get mad and murder anybody on marijuana. I've never seen anybody break into a house or have to go out on the street and suck dick to get pot. That's not how it works, okay? When you come to, it's one of the less harmful drugs. So yes, I am an advocate for the legalization of marijuana. Be smart about it. Make some money back for our country. Pay off some of this debt. Rebuild our infrastructure. Legalize marijuana. Number 9. Here's another one that a lot of you people who buy into this whole globalist consciousness, we are all one, we are all equal thing, and that's great. Yes, we are all equal. Okay. But not everybody. Okay, for instance, I'm never going to be on the front of a GQ magazine. Okay, I'm never going to be able to hit a baseball like Mark McGwire. I'm never going to be able to slam dunk like LeBron James. I'm never going to be able to play hockey like Wayne Gretzky. I'm never going to be able to sing like Al Green. Okay, we are not all created equal. Some people have talents in certain areas, some people have talents in other areas. So I believe in the equality of opportunity. Like, everybody should have the opportunity to do these things. But the equality of outcome is a different story. I don't think that people should be placed in positions just because they are of some certain ethnicity or gender or religion. That's a problem. And see, this is a lot of what the globalism and the United Nations pushes, that we should just open our borders and let everybody into our country. And that doesn't work, because not everybody's created equal. Some countries and some nations have lower IQs, they have lower tolerance on certain things that we don't have. It doesn't always work. And the United Nations is seriously pushing this globalist agenda. And they actually have something on the books, which Donald Trump didn't sign, nor did Poland, Hungary, Serbia, and a few other countries said no, where the United Nations is literally trying to tell you what you have to do for immigration, and that's just basically open the borders to everybody and anybody. And this is not going to work. This isn't going to work for any country. You can't destroy the native population of a thriving country and expect that country to still thrive. You can't replace populations of nations and destroy nationhood and the idea of a certain culture and expect that culture to thrive. What you're doing is you're creating a chaotic situation so that you could come in and control things. So this is my opinion as far as that. You want to make America great again, leave the United Nations. Bye. We don't need any part of it. We contribute the most money to the United Nations. We send our military out on the United Nations and we get nothing back. The United Nations sits there and tears us to shreds and talks about how lazy America is, how fat America is, how racist, how patriarchal, all the bullshit that you hear spread. And that people in these other countries believe that we're just these people who sit there with guns on both of our hips and eat 15 cheeseburgers for breakfast and hate fucking minorities, and it's just ridiculous. I've seen people from other countries who post things about the homeless people in the United States, like every grade in America is filled with homeless people, but yet these same people push immigration. Like, if we can't even take care of our own, let's put more people in here. And this is the sort of things that the United Nations pushes. They want to push people out for nature. I'm sure you people have heard of Agenda 21 and Agenda 30 if you haven't studied these. The United Nations are nobody's friends. They are a globalist corporation that is trying to take over the world and control the world. Leave the fucking United Nations. Absolutely goodbye. And that brings me to number one. When you talk about the New World Order and you talk about globalization, who are the main people behind it? It's the bankers, the people who control the money and control the resources. Now, since I believe it was 1939, we have left the gold standard and we've went to this fiat currency, which means it's basically we're on the oil dollar. So all the oil that's exchanged in the world is exchanged by the dollar, which is backed by oil backers. Okay, so we have an oil-backed dollar, which can account for a lot of the reasons that there's always these wars in the Middle East, and that all these different fuel sources are put aside, and how you always see people talk about how terrible wind power is, or solar power, or all these other things, because they want to keep this oil dollar going, because they want to boost up the economy. But who's controlling the economy? It's the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve tells us how much our gold's going to be worth, how much our precious oil, how much our oil, how much our money. And these are not even American companies. These are multi-conglomerate banks from England, from Israel, who are controlling our economy. Not just our economy. There's actually literally only 6 countries in the world that are not controlled by the Federal Reserve or the International Monetary Fund, which are all, the IMF is basically who control the world. They control the world's economies. Now, we have an abundance. America is a big country. We have an abundance of resources. We have an abundance of gold. We have an abundance of silver. We have platinum. We have palladium. We have chromium. We have wheat. We have corn. We have all kinds of things. Now, even if we don't have enough gold to cover it, we need to have a commodity-based income that is controlled by the United States, not by foreign entities. So in order to make America great again, we need to end the Federal Reserve monopoly over our economy. Now, whether this is Donald Trump who sees this video, whether it's the American public who sees this video, who can spread it, whether it's somebody in a foreign country who has a misconception of the United States who sees this, these are things that I believe that we can make America great again. So let's just do a little recap. Number 10, media accountability. Number 9, end the political systems. Have a non-party system of ideas and thoughts. Work-only migration. Pharmaceutical accountability. End large political donations. Return to free speech. End lobbying. Legalize marijuana. Leave the United Nations. And end the Federal Reserve monopoly. Now, if there's anything else that any of you could think of, please feel free to chime in the comments. Let me know what you think. Let's add some other ideas. Let's open up the spectrum. Let's make America great again. Hell, use these ideas that I've came up with in your own country. Form your new political systems. Let's start. Let's make America great again. You make America great again, you make the world great again. We can live in peace and harmony. We can get rid of this negativity and this bullshit. We can live as independent nations and help each other out. Free trade. But also, this is something else that just on a side note. Free trade with countries who offer us free trade. Now, if we have to pay to send our products there, they should have to pay to send our products here. So let's just keep that even. But yeah, you can live in an independent nation state that's a great country and still work with the world. You can have your globalism with that. I just don't want a globalist governance of our country. Okay. Thank you, and thank everybody in America and anywhere else who's watching. We can make this country great again. It's not terrible, but we can make it better. Thank you all. We'll see you again. Bye.